welcome back to my channel. Today on my channel I'll be reviewing A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place is a 2018 American horror film directed by John Krasinski from a screenplay by Brian Wood, Scott Beck and Krasinski, based on a story by Woods and Beck. The film follows a family who must live their life in silence while hiding from creatures which hunt exclusively by sound. Despite all the film's praise, I tried my best to keep my expectations low. This was mostly because I was fearing it turning into another Don't Breathe scenario where everyone loves it so hard that I'm expecting something amazing, and then when I finally get to watch it, I end up hating it with a fiery passion. That being said, there were many things I enjoyed about this film, though ultimately I was not nearly as enamored by it as much as the public seemed to be. From the moment the film began, I found its filming choices quite riveting. I knew I was going into a film that most of the time was going to lack sound, but even though I knew this, I wasn't expecting the extent. In many films, even when there is an absence of dialogue, there is still background noise or even a score to keep the audience engaged. When this film begins, there is nothing. It is so quiet, I honestly felt something was wrong with the copy I was watching, but everything was just fine. It was impressive to see how far in they were willing to go and how far they would take the concept. The slightest noise, even so much as a pin dropping, means death, and for that reason they take every precaution to avoid any and all sound. Watching this in action was deafening. It was a shock to my senses and made me very uncomfortable, which meant it was doing its job, and for that reason I was hooked. When the film surprises you with the bursts of sound, you feel the level of alarm and panic it induces, and it is perfectly acted out in our performers' faces. That instant fear where your mind races with all the ways this moment could turn out, with the most important being, will you survive? I felt these moments were inserted very smartly and sporadically. They weren't one after another, which would have been overkill and not fit the tone of the film. The cinematography I found was quite simple, but in this case simple works perfect for what this movie is. You're already doing something incredible when it comes to sound. You're so strongly focused on how to utilize one sense that I think if they had amped up the visuals, it would have just become a sensory clusterfuck. Emily Blunt for me is the standout performer of this film. While I felt everyone did a phenomenal job, she of course took it to a whole other level. There is a lot of range to her character: fear, pain, determined, protective, loving, and seeing her act out each of these things was just incredible. I was truly blown away by what she brought to this film. As for Millicent Simmonds, while her breakthrough role was in 2017's Wonderstruck, her role in this film and what this film represents when it comes to the hearing impaired community is a breakthrough all in itself. It's really great to see minority actors being given more roles, and what I liked in this film is that usually when you see an actor with an impairment on screen, their character is very obviously part of the minority and they stand out from everyone else and are almost depicted as abnormal. But in this, despite her condition, she's not depicted as abnormal at all. Due to the circumstances, she's very much like everyone else. While she can't hear and doesn't speak, she's not made to feel different because no one else is able to speak, and therefore there is nothing to hear most of the time. I found that quite interesting to witness. I was surprised by how many people were killed in this movie. I honestly wasn't expecting even one to die. I was thinking it would be one of those movies where it's all about the suspense and the anticipation of death, but no actual death. So when it happens, I was quite stunned and again impressed. However, I was not impressed with the creatures themselves, and I did feel we were exposed to them too soon, and that took away a lot of the suspense for me. I felt their appearance was too over the top for a film with such a simple style. The final confrontation with them did remind me a fair bit of Signs. You think everyone's screwed, but in the last second they figure out the one thing that can kill them that no one was able to figure out. Their appearance, I was expecting something I'd never seen before, but these creatures honestly looked like if Venom and the Tooth Fairies from Hellboy had a baby, so because it felt reminiscent of another thing, I wasn't very impressed by them. There were some what I would consider convenient plot points that were inserted into the film, and I personally find it aggravating when anything is done for the sake of convenience, especially in a horror movie. It just lowers the quality for me because it feels lazy. For example, the scene with the nail I felt was unnecessary. We already have the character going into labor and trying to be quiet about it, which is next to impossible. And this was Blunt's standout moment of the film for me. I imagine that's much like what Scientology is like. Point is, this moment was stressful enough and I'm sure could have still led to making noise, so the addition of the nail bit I was unimpressed with. The silo scene I felt again added an unnecessary moment to the film. The entire circumstances of the film are intense and dangerous enough, so inserting this scene that was about how can we up the danger factor, again I felt was pushing it. My other issue was found in the final scene when they realize the creature's weakness and they use it to fight back. This I also found a bit convenient. I'm not sure how all the scribbles on the walls and the newspaper articles everywhere allowed her to piece together what their weakness was and how she could utilize it. She did seem to figure that out abnormally fast and piece it together in a way I just don't understand. So while the logic of what their weakness is I think is perfect and makes total sense, how they discovered it in that moment I didn't find believable. I'm also trying to piece together where the creatures come from. From the newspaper clippings, I assume they appeared from a meteor or asteroid that was mentioned, but I'm not sure. If so, that would again make them aliens and would once again remind me of Signs. Overall, there was a lot that I was impressed with, and I am certainly blown away with how this film uses sound and the absence of sound to create a story, and how they depicted it was incredible. And as I mentioned, the performances were stellar, but there are still things about this film I was not impressed by. With it being a horror film, I never felt scared or even really felt that suspenseful, and when moments reminded me of other films, what little suspense I was feeling was instantly diminished. So these elements had zero impact on me. I honestly only jumped once, and it was because the dad popped up out of nowhere. Prior to seeing it, I felt a sequel was ridiculous. Having now seen it, I do see how the ending lends itself to a sequel, but I personally don't feel it needs one. After the success of this, I don't believe a sequel will match what this has done and will just end up as another sequel that is there to make money but contributes absolutely nothing. Ultimately, still a solid film. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, and if you have seen it, please comment down below and share your thoughts on it. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, bye.